So apparently Henry Cavill was fired from The Witcher. I don't believe that to be the case, by the way. At all, in fact. And I also think that these being the reasons behind his apparently, being fired from The Witcher, I don't think they're good reasons anyway. In fact, they make me like him even more. So I thought we'd dive into this today. A bit chilled, sort of catching up on some more discussion-based things before, obviously, we break up for Christmas. I hope you're all well. Hope you're stuffing your tummies, ready to go. But let's take a look at this. So this is from the Des Moines podcast, which they're sometimes right, sometimes not. So not a great track record. Not horrendous either, though. And again, like I say, this just isn't a big deal. So this is the transcript. It says, I recently got this message and someone was like, do you want to know what really went down? And I was like, sure. So let me just read it. It says, at the beginning of the show, Henry was good to work with. A lot of unusual demands that made people feel like he wasn't really a team player, but that's not unusual for a big star. Though in TV, it truly usually doesn't happen until the second season. But in season 2 and 3, something shifted. I mean, this first part, just as an FYI, is so nondescript and vague. I don't care. Sure, what? He had weird demand. Okay, sure, whatever. Like, that's so subjective, it means nothing. But in season 2 and 3, something shifted. And he became really impossible for women to work with, which is always a big problem. But even worse here, because the showrunner is a woman. He would try to overrule her and try to get changes made last minute across the board without her knowledge. Okay, so what? So he wanted to stick to the law, did he? Okay, you telling me he became impossible for women to work with, again, means nothing. You're not describing how at all. And which we, the things we learn later in this transcript literally just shows that, well, him trying to get changes made is just his love for the law, which is not bad. There's no condemnation here. It's almost vindicating him even more. People are so dumb, they don't realise how bad they truly look and how good they make other people look. So, he obviously tried to get changes made across the board without the showrunner's knowledge, which, if you know anything about showrunning, is completely effed. The showrunner has to sign off on every minuscule detail, down to the buttons on a costume. Sure. Female writers and directors were suddenly completely ignored on set, unable to do their jobs. You know what? That, based on what, again, we learn further down the line, it just sounds like he was getting annoyed that you guys weren't listening to him, and he was trying to get you to do the law of the show. Maybe. Every department head was complaining. He started making comments. It wasn't a sexual thing. He wasn't grabbing anyone or being lewd, but it was disrespectful and toxic all the same. What the fuck does that mean, toxic? Come on. What? Disrespectful in what way? Without any statements here means nothing. Such nonsense and vagaries. He's deeply addicted to video games, to the point where it was like working with any other addict. A fucking addict? He was distracted. He was late. He was obsessive. Okay, so he wanted you to stick to the law. More often than not, stars are always late. Just as an FYI. They always are late. But saying he was like obsessive and he was just like, oh, he's obsessed with video games. Ugh. What are you, 12? No one cares. Anyway, to the point where it was like working with any other addict, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of people think that the misogyny came from Gamer World. What misogyny? You've just said he wasn't being sexual and lewd. You're contradicting yourself. Video game bro language is not how you talk to co-workers. And he wouldn't stop. What? What are you on about? Video game bro language? What? Give me some examples. Someone on the show compared it to watching get brainwashed by QAnon. Like his whole personality shifted. Eventually, his disrespect escalated. Again, you know what this actually just says to me? He started off like a usual movie star. And then from there, he ended up getting really annoyed because you weren't listening to him say, hey, look, do you realise that this isn't what would happen? And this is very out of character. And he just shut down. That's what it sounds like. He just completely shut off. He was like, I can't be bothered. You're talking shit. He would rewrite scenes without even alerting the other actors in the scenes until it was time to shoot. He decided that he didn't want any romantic scenes at all. Okay. What's the issue with this? We've been praising women for saying that they didn't want romantic scenes. You go, girl. What's wrong with this? No kissing, no shirtless scenes, etc. Okay, so? He's not a piece of meat. He wanted complete control of storylines. Yeah, I can see why, because they're shit. The thing is, what's fascinating to me is that people leak this stuff thinking that this is going to make them look good. All it does, because we have the product to judge, is make us go, yeah, no, Henry Cavill was definitely right here. He should have had complete control. But really had no idea of the limitations of TV. Well, he clearly does, because he's been given a contract with Games Workshop to run an entire Warhammer universe. Structure, budget, etc. He formed a weird alliance with one writer who was also a gamer. Why are they trying to villainize gamers? So weird. Who eventually got fired after multiple HR complaints were made. And after that writer left, Henry did anything he could to hold up production and cause problems. Eventually, top brass at Netflix was tired of him costing them money with delays in HR investigations. The HR person gets paid regardless. Shut up. And the showrunner was asked to construct a potential exit for him. Netflix reached out to him personally, and he was given one final warning, and violated that warning with an email he sent to the entire writing staff right after that meeting. That was it. None of this makes Henry look bad. Just literally none of it at all. None of this makes Henry look bad. This only makes Henry look good. It makes it look like he was right for wanting complete control over everything. It makes it look like you guys were wrong for not giving him complete control over everything. It makes it look like what we can all just see is that, you know, he obviously started off the first few episodes filming it, going like, oh yeah, maybe. And then it just went to complete shit. He tried to advise you and he was sick of it and he left. And not only that, this is not just from one person. You remember, we have it from Beau DeMayo that he'd had enough as well. And the comments are amazing. Female writer getting mad he won't do a shirtless scene, calls it misogynistic. Yeah, exactly. The absolute hypocrisy of the situation. Utter nonsense. I thought you'd have a great time with this. I did. I mean, it's funny, but it's also shit all at the same time. But let me know your thoughts.